Welcome to Monday Motivations, 52 Weeks to a More Purposeful You. This week, I'm very excited. So I'm Corry Mendoza, and I have my dear friend, Laurie Cozart, and we are going to be talking about week 24 in the book, and the topic is essence. And I'm super excited to have Laurie on the show. We started working together, I think it was at UC Davis or even some other work before then. And Laurie's just been a very grounding coach and colleague throughout the years. I think we met in around 2013. So we're going on, what is that? Like 15 years or 14 years?
Well, 2013, so 7-ish?
Oh, 7. Me and my math.
7 or 8?
Yeah. Okay. So we're going on 7 or 8 years.
Apparently, we're neither one of us are good at math. I'm not sure.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Wait, 2013, that would be 9 years.
Oh, you're right. Yes, you're absolutely right. Gosh, how time flies.
Yeah. So almost a decade. And one of my favorite memories is showing up in Merced County for UC Davis to do the supervisory series, and the box of materials showed up, and there's love notes on the box from you, Corry rocks. And so, it's always great to have people in our lives that are our cheerleaders. So for those of you who don't know Laurie, let's see, tell you a little bit about her. Okay, so Laurie, I just have to say, is like a super entrepreneur, because you have founded a lot of really amazing institutes. So Laurie is founder and CEO of Brain Squared Solutions, a company that's dedicated to using neuroscience to help create thriving organizational cultures. You are owner and instructor of Science to Wellbeing, an award-winning evidence-based advanced coaching program developed by high-profile scientists and coaches to increase life satisfaction through life values alignment. That's very powerful. You're founder of Mind to Lead Institute of Professional Coaching, an organization that supports the development of coaches through coach training, mentoring, and supervision. Laurie is an International Coach Federation Master Certified Coach in MCC, which there's a very small percentage of coaches that achieve that status. So that is awesome. She's a certified ICF mentor coach and a certified coach supervisor. You've been featured in lots of different areas, Smart Money, more magazines. So, I mean, you've been at this work for a while. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Corry. Thanks for having me. And I've been at this for a while because I'm older than you.
Not by much.
It's all based on experience, right? So and I like hearing it, because that's the culmination of the journey, isn't it? Right there. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, well, thank you for being with us. And so our topic today is essence. And so when you hear that word essence, and when you think about all the people that you serve and you work with, what are some of the things that come up for you on this topic?
When you started telling me about essence, or we started talking about essence, what really started to solidify for me is when I worked a very long history in retail. I worked in retail for about 25 years. And I remember specifically when I actually had to shed all of that experience and move into something different. And I think that there was a particular essence that I had then, which was really great. But I think that essence grew as I moved into my own entrepreneurship and moved into coaching, because I think that's really when I became who I was supposed to be.
Were there other times in your life when you experienced shedding a layer? And like you said, what are some of the other experiences?
Yeah, I think there's a constant shedding, right? The of becoming who you are. We can get the topic of authenticity comes up a lot in coaching, right? Who are you as an authentic coach? And I always come from the perspective that we're authentically different every single day. So there's a process of shedding that happens throughout our entire lives, right? I mean, we shed possibly how we grew up and where we came from. We move that into our work world, and then we have work experience. And as we learn and grow, there's our essence changes, and the things that we care most about change. And so there's this constant sort of letting go of things and eliminating things that no longer serve us.
Yeah, in the book, the quote at the very top says, "The sculptor produces the beautiful statue by chipping away such parts of the marble block as are not needed. It is a process of elimination." And I like that quote because it's kind of like who we are, or who that marble, the marble stays the marble, but then the elimination are the things that are blurring this beautiful statue to come. Yeah, so how do you see that, like when you work with people, how do you see that showing up in your coaching work?
That's such a great question. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was drawn to coaching. I feel like it's always been such a huge part of me, even in prior, right, in my work prior, because there was always this sense of I wanted to grow and develop and coach others. At the time, I didn't even know what that word meant, right? To me, coach meant mentorship. And being able to sort of shed and renew coming out of that long-term career and then seeking something new was really invigorating for me, and a complete and different change. But I think the best part about it is exactly what you just described, helping others determine what is still serving me, what is no longer serving me, and then holding that space for them to be able to step into and make the changes that they want to change and really come into that fulfillment. It reminds me of one of my favorite poems that's called An Unlived Life, right? Really being able to say, what is it that fires me up, and not settling for the things, that are holding us back into stepping into who we truly are.
No, that's good. So, like now, because like you said, we're always shedding new layers. Michael Bungay Stainer, I think you know who he is, more great work. But he talks about the concept of good work, bad work, and great work. So basically, we get the concept of bad work is work that we hate doing. It's like, taking, I don't want to do it. And then good work is we're good at it. Like, I'm sure by the time you left retail, you were great at that job, but it wasn't fulfilling you. So then great work is that work where probably that feeling when you stepped out of the like the comfort of being good into the unknown. So, what do you think about that in terms of essence?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think, stepping out of that, there's a lot of accoutrements that come with working in retail, right? A lot of pressure to be, first and foremost, this was fashion retail. So there's a lot of spending money on having just the right clothes, just the right shoes, just the right. And I think there was so much of what we would call in Science to Wellbeing, which is a values to well-being course, right, is what we would call acquired values that come into play. And that being able to step out of that, you come to terms with looking in the mirror and finding out who you really are. Right?
That's
not who you're programmed, right?
Go ahead. Yes. Yeah.
Not who you're programmed to become by the people that you surround yourself with or by what you're used to doing, but really just taking that pause and looking in the mirror and saying, taking stock of what's really important that you bring to the table. And it's not ever the shoes or the clothes, right? It's the person that you are. It's the essence that you bring into the room. In coaching, we would call that presence. It's right. It's how you share that with others and how you hold space for others.
So like right now, what are some of the area, where's your edge right now in terms of continually, because I know you have a lot of experience and all that life experience, but are you still finding yourself at the threshold of a new shedding and a new shaping?
Oh, I think that's constant. And it's interesting because, and this isn't about age, and I get that, but there are things that happen as you age where you do shed a lot of the things that you thought were super important. And
Mhm.
you come to realize, and hopefully I'm not sounding like my parents right now, but you come to
I've never
realize what's
met
really,
them, so I don't know.
yeah, well, good.
You're
Well,
good.
then you won't know. I'm really sounding like my mother right now. But you move into who you really are, who you were meant to become, and you care less about um, opinions,
Mhm.
all, like I said, all of the things, all of the stuff that comes into play. You really care a lot less about that.
Mhm.
And I've always had this sort of mantra around love and service. That's what I'm here for on this earth, is to love and serve.
Mhm.
And I think that's even taken up a bigger portion of who I'm becoming in the last several years, as just as you get a little bit older. And I think also, Corey, a catalyst to that was the pandemic, right? Everything shifted and changed, and our priorities shifted and changed.
Mhm.
I mean, you're talking to a woman who spent 3 to 5 days a week on the road.
Yeah.
That, the opportunity to actually be home and sleep in my own bed the majority of the time and spend time with the people that I truly care about
Mhm.
has had a huge impact on the person that I am sitting here today 2 years later.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I think so many people watching can relate, and we're just all in this discovering and that's an example of an external shedding that happened outside of our control, but we had the opportunity to benefit from, and not everybody did benefit, or they haven't, some people haven't yet benefited from, good can come from the negative. So what like tips would you give people who are having a hard time allowing the elimination and the shed to happen so that their essence can come up?
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw this movie the other day, and there was such a coaching question in there, and it was, if you sit with the question long enough, the answer will arrive. And I think it's the same in what you're talking about, is if you sit with the shedding and
Mhm.
allow it to come, the the what needs to be shed will appear.
Mhm.
And I think there's a comfortableness around it, right? We have to be comfortable with letting go.
Mhm.
And that's really not our true ability as humans, is it?
We clinch.
We try to clinch, yeah, we're holding on to things. And I think just sitting with it and letting it test the waters so that we become comfortable. Otherwise, we're clenching onto things that no longer serve us.
Mhm.
This might sound silly, but I've always heard about butterflies, right? In the chrysalis stage and how they actually grow and change. And but what I didn't know until like 3 or 4 years ago was that they actually break down their entire beings,
DNA.
right? Their whole DNA breaks down, like turns into a big pile of goo. And I think that that's true for humans. We have to trust the process and trust who we're becoming, to allow us ourselves to really break down all of the walls, break down all of the accoutrements, break down all
Mhm.
of the things of who we think we should be,
Mhm.
and really step into who we are, step into the essence of who we are.
Yeah. Okay. So you said this word twice, and the first time I was like, "What's that word?" And then you said it again. What's a accoutrement?
Oh, trappings, right? So,
Oh.
like I said, accoutrements would be all of the stuff, right? All of the clothes, all of the way we think we need to look, having just the right haircut, having just the right car, having all of those things that really are just the external forces that maybe feed ego. which is
Mm-hmm.
not a not a bad thing. You know,
Yeah.
I like having nice things too, but sometimes we can get trapped
Mhm,
in thinking that that's what's most important. Those external things are what's most important, when
mhm,
really what's most important is how you give and how you serve. At least this is my opinion. How
mhm,
you give and how you serve others.
Yeah. So basically, to kind of sum up what you had said about, for the people that are struggling with getting to acceptance, when external changes are crushing us or impacting us, I think the heart of what you were saying is to surrender and let go.
Yeah, that sounds really hard, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's that surrendering and letting go is probably the most difficult piece. But
Mhm.
it's sort of like when so if you think about somebody who's drowning, right? So
Yeah.
you think about the more they struggle,
Mhm,
the more likely they are to drown. But if I were to just throw my head back and float,
mhm,
I could and just take it, just take it easy. I
mhm.
might be able to survive longer. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense that it's written about in this
Oh,
section. Yeah, so I don't know if you remember that part, but so yeah, so it says here, because in this part I wrote this in 2010, but I was writing about 2008, and I said at the beginning of 2008 my world began unraveling, and it unraveled quickly. I lost just about everything I thought I had. I was scared, and because I had exhausted my mental, emotional, and spiritual abilities trying to hold on to, at the time, my marriage, my finances, and my picture of this perfect life, that I had worked so hard to build. The more I tried to fix my situation, the worse it got. It was like I was drowning and I was trying to save myself from drowning, which only ensured my death. And that's exactly what,
exactly.
when things, and I actually have a friend right now who's going through some really challenging things, and it's like the perfect storm. There's so many things coming at her, and it's like the more she tries to like fight every little thing, it's exhausting and depleting. So do you relate to that? Like, have you ever had a time in your life when you were trying to hold it all together and that you just had to, like you said, get on your back and float and just let things fall into place?
Yeah, I think so many times in life, right? And I think that's part of the learning process is, um, when you're younger, you're really trying to hold on to everything that you're trying to create, which is great, right? And I
Yeah.
and that's how we build and change and grow. And then there's this, and it is really, in my opinion, like the butterfly. A few years ago, when I was in my late 50s, right, preparing to turn 60, which is a big deal, I struggled so much with trying to hang on to youth. What is that going to look like as I get a little bit older? But to be honest, letting go of all of those things, letting my hair grow out, there were so many people who said, don't do that. You got to hang on to that blonde hair, and instead just letting it grow and letting it be who I am. It takes it takes a lot of reflection and a lot of self-discipline, because it's hard. It's hard to let go of some of those things as you start to see them unravel. And to be honest, Corey, this is the biggest struggle and I've had lots of struggles. I'm not trying to minimize any of the struggles that I've had. I was a teenage mom. I had, I was divorced early with two kids. So I spent a lot of time being a single mom.
Mhm.
Late in my 40s, later on in my 40s, I met the love of my life. So I've had lots of things unravel and come back together again. And I think that's the beautiful thing when you're able to look back on things and see how you've been able to really walk through some challenging times where everything has changed and been eliminated or been chipped away, and you're still up and you're still rising and you're still moving forward
Mhm.
and just waiting in anticipation for what's next.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you think this has been the hardest. So that transition as you approached 60. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really hard. It's you know, there's a, I don't know if I think it's both internal and external, right? There's the way that people see older folks, you hear the number 60 and it's like, whoa, I actually see faces go, whoa, you know?
Yeah.
And to myself, I thought, oh my gosh, when I turned 60, which was just a couple of months ago, by the way, I'm not that far into 60s, but but it was like a big shift. You know, all of the birthdays before that didn't really seem to have that much of an impact. But
Mhm,
realizing that you're 60, I just really wanted to eliminate the things that were holding me back so
mhm,
I could really make them the highest level of impact that I've been put here to make.
mm,
And when we're, to go back to your metaphor in your book, when we're allowing those things to really, those boulders to hold us down when we should be floating, it's time to just let them go.
yeah.
And I'm not here to say it's easy because it isn't.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's probably going to be the message that impacts most people listening and watching is your authenticity in sharing, because so many people are going to relate to that, men and women. There may perhaps be a little bit more that falls on women per se when it comes to aging and letting go, but it affects all humans, all of us. So I
Yeah.
love it.
Thank you. And I didn't realize how, and I'm not saying that I have the courage, but I never realized how much courage it really takes to get older
Mhm.
because everything changes and shifts.
Yeah.
You know, I watch my dad who's 90 and
Mhm.
there's so many things he has to let go of because of, at his age,
Mhm.
all of his relationships are gone. My mother passed away in 2012. You know, my brother passed away in 2016. So there's all
Mhm.
of these shifts and changes that happen as you age. And watching him go through all of this has actually given me a different perspective around what's really important
Mhm.
and the grace that he's shown in being able to do that and still wake up every morning and call his girlfriend. At 90, you know, he has a girlfriend, which is super cute.
Oh,
I love hearing their stories.
oh, I love that. Well, and I think another thing, there's two things I want to pinpoint. One is that you are living this topic essence, like, because that's what this whole thing is about, is when we surrender and we let go, who our real value shines.
Yeah.
And I, just to be honest, like, your essence and your presence today, it's it's so much more. And you've always inspired me and invigorated me, but it's even more today, and it's like, kind of like what you're saying, there's a lot of things that, as we all age, we let go of. What is the value in who I was when I was 25? What happens at 35 when I can't do that, or 45 when I can't do that? And yeah, we're always reconnecting with the real value and impact that we have. And from an external standpoint, we didn't even really go down that path, but America, we really place a high value on youth and influence and power and stuff. It is perceived in youth, but people groups since the beginning of time, it was always the silver haired that had the wisdom and was leading the people groups.
Yeah.
So
And that's really, for me, that's the next evolution, I think, for me as a human being, is how do I give back even more? I mean, that's really been my mantra since I in my 40s, but it's just really amping it up. And I think there's this sense of, gosh, I don't have to. I want to do more because I have, you get to understand that the time is limited, right?
yeah.
There's only so much impact that you can have in the amount of time
Mhm.
left,
Mhm.
whatever that might be.
Yeah.
So
Well, one of the things that I know that you have done is you've written a new book, right?
I did.
Coaching Conversations.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about the book.
Oh, I don't know why, but I just noticed that made me feel really emotional, Corey.
Mhm.
um, Coaching conversations is a lifelong journey. It's really designed for professional coaches. We use it in coach training, and it's for professional coaches to deepen and broaden their coaching experience with their clients. But the book itself has been a lifelong journey for me. I remember vividly coaching my brother. His name was Ray. I was 5 years old and he was 8. And I just remember this moment in time where, as I'm looking back on my life, that was the moment in time where I realized, or at least because I didn't have the words, right, that I can remember furthest back that I was really stepping into that coach role, that essence of being a coach, and just allowing my brother to share and listen in a different way. Now, I was also wearing a nurse's uniform and standing in an easel, Corey. So so who knows what that was all about, but I can trace back my coaching experience clear to that moment. And it's such a powerful thing because my brother and I were able to have a more professional relationship later on, where I actually did do some professional coaching with him.
Mhm.
And then he passed away in 2016. But this has been a lifelong journey for me in coaching conversations. And through my lifetime, again, not being able to attach the word coach to it,
Mhm.
but just being holding space for another person so that they can grow professionally and personally. And watching that development has always been something that I've been really drawn to and has been part of my life. I think, and why I was so successful in retail, because I was really growing other leaders the whole time, just
Mhm.
really being open to sharing and giving your knowledge away so that others can step up and be powerful leaders as well. There's
Mhm.
plenty of room for all of us to step into
Mhm.
greatness, right?
Mhm.
And so coaching conversations is that culmination. And you'll see some tips and techniques on how to work with your coaching clients to take those conversations to a deeper level where they can experience a more profound and perhaps transformational change.
Mhm. So is this book geared more towards brand new coaches or somebody like myself that's been coaching 12 years or both?
I think it could be both. I think it's going to be super beneficial for new coaches who are a little, still trying to get their footing. But I think it gives some great examples of how we can apply the core competencies in different ways
Mhm.
so that anybody on anywhere in their coaching journey could apply those. Might be things that they haven't thought about.
Well, and I know as coaches, or like think of like black belt. If you're going to be a black belt in karate, it's repetition of the fundamentals. And any of us coaches, I have some of my first time books that I got, and I'll pull them out and kind of do refreshers. And it's like, oh my goodness, I totally am not doing that anymore. I need to get back to that. So I'm definitely getting your book, and then I thought of another thing. What about therapists? Would it benefit therapists, like for them to kind of be able to infuse coach like questions into therapy, or is it really specific to coaches?
That is such a great question. And I say yes. And the
Yeah.
reason I say that is because, coaching does have its footing in humanistic psychology. So they're very much in alignment. They're not the same thing.
Yeah.
They're in alignment though. And I think that we see more and more therapists because, I teach for a university when it comes to teaching coaching at a university level. We see more and more therapists infusing coaching into their practices. So I
Yeah.
definitely think that that is a place where it could be used if that fits for them in their practice. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to get a copy, and I might be giving it as gifts to different coaches and therapists that I know.
Well, thank you, Corey.
Okay. And everybody can find this on Amazon.
They will within the next few days or so.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Oh,
Yep.
goodness.
You'll
Okay.
be able
So
to find
when,
it on
yeah.
Amazon.
Okay, great. Well, okay, thank you so much for your time. And in closing, I always like to kind of wrap it up with a bow by saying or asking, what is one piece of wisdom or a piece of advice you would give yourself and others when it comes to this topic of essence?
Mm. I would really consider what is the essence that you want people to experience? Because we have this impact on others, right? I call it the ripple effect. How we show up impacts our communities, our families, our teams and organizations, and it ripples out. And we oftentimes think that it stays where we stay, right? If we work in an organization, we think our essence stays in that organization, when really you have such an impact on others that it ripples out into their families and their teams and their communities. So I would sit with, how do you want that essence to be? Where are you struggling to, that needs to be let go of, so that you can really step in and serve other people and do that to the greatest satisfaction for yourself. And I think that that's often where times where we want to hold on to the past, or we want to hold on to those things so tightly. Test it out.
Mhm.
See how is that holding on impacting your essence to others? And what would it be like if you were to let that go and show up a little bit differently?
I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. I wrote down the ripple effect. So you said we think our impact stays where we stay. Is that what you said?
Well, when I work with leaders and teams, I don't think they really consider oftentimes that if they have a negative interaction with one of their team members, that negative interaction stays within the human being, right? Within their physiology for up to 72 hours, depending on the intensity. So that ripples out into people's family lives and ultimately ripples out into the community. So we, in our essence, right, we need to figure out who we are as leaders and how we show up and what's the impact that we're currently having and how might we want to shift that so that
Yeah,
we can make the biggest difference.
absolutely. Yeah. Susan Scott talks about our emotional wake
Yep.
that we leave.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. Love it.
And she is a woman that when I met her in 2000, I think it was 9 or 10, I was like, I have a vision for how I want to be in my 70s. Like, I'm like, so that's really cool. Well, this conversation just went in so many yummy ways. Thank you so much for your time, and everybody get her book, Coaching Conversations. So let's see, next week will be week 25, and week 25's topic is balance. So you want to join us again next week? Thank you so much. Have an awesome week.